Hello, everybody, and welcome to the 11th edition of the PB Political Podcast. I'm Ishan Pokral. Cameron is not co-hosting today due to a scheduling conflict. However, I am joined by the co-director of the Encode Justice Organization, a fellow at the Giffords Law Center, and founder of the Teen View, Austen Wyche. Welcome to the show, Austin.
Hi, and I'm proud to be here.
So, tell us a little bit about yourself. I know we've had a couple of bigger name people on, no disrespect to you, of course, but had a couple congressional candidates on, and you're a little unknown compared to them, obviously. So just tell us a little about yourself and what you've been doing for the last couple of years.
Definitely. So, my name is Austen Wyche, and I'm currently a junior in Madison, Alabama. And just a little bit about myself. So, I serve as the National Co-Director of Advocacy at an organization called Encode Justice. So, Encode Justice essentially works to safeguard civil rights and civil liberties in the age of artificial intelligence. So, we deal with technologies such as facial recognition technology, algorithms on social media platforms, and much more. And we work alongside organizations such as the ACLU, Justice LA, and a number of other advocacy oriented organizations across the country. So next, I serve as a Courage Fellow for the organization Giffords. And Giffords is essentially a gun safety group that was founded by former Congresswoman Gabrielle Giffords in the aftermath of her shooting in 2011. So she founded this organization so that she could push for different gun safety policies across the country to prevent mass shootings, as well as safeguard the next generation from gun violence. So with that organization, I travel to DC every now and then, and we learn from experts in the gun safety movement, and we lobby lawmakers in Congress. So lastly, I'm the founder of an organization called the Teen View, and we write about political, social, and economic issues that affect students as well as just people all across the country. So we have a myriad of writers who come from liberal, moderate to conservative perspectives, and we essentially allow them to have a free space where they can distribute to others what they think about certain issues and try to persuade their audiences.
Yeah, and for those of you who don't know, the Teen View and PB Political are long-standing rivals in the space of Alabama student-led organizations, but it's all good fun. And also another thing, Gabrielle Giffords, she's the wife of
Senator
Senator Kelly,
Marquette.
right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's another tie-in to the whole the current Washington landscape, like you said. Just a little bit about Encode Justice. That's the thing I knew the least of going into this. So you said what it was about, but like, you're the co-director. So what do you personally oversee?
Definitely. So we have a whole team of advocacy fellows. So these fellows they live all across the country, and we have some international fellows as well. So I oversee that team, and we pinpoint legislation across the country that we're targeting or certain political races that we want to influence. So just as an example, one of our big focuses recently has been a piece of legislation in the state of Virginia. It is known as State Bill 741. Yes, and it was passed by the state legislature, and it would essentially expand the use of facial recognition technology across. I'm sorry, I just got a call.
You're good. Yeah, no, you're good.
So it would expand the use of facial recognition technology all across the country. I'm sorry, not across the country. It would expand the use across the state. And we noticed that last year under Governor Northam, we had seen a law that would have it restricted the use of facial recognition technology across the state by law enforcement and other entities. So this would essentially roll back that ban that was passed that Encode Justice had supported. So what we did was we sent emails and we phone banked to the office of the governor, the lieutenant governor, as well as the Office of Diversity, Equity, and Opportunity in Virginia. So that's one of our main focuses recently, as well as the Nudge Act in Congress. So we just essentially look at specific pieces of legislation across the country, and we have our fellows as well as ourselves, and we pinpoint those pieces of legislation and try to influence the decisions that are made.
So, what races do you have under the microscope right now? Because I know the midterms are coming up. We've been covering the midterms a lot. So, do you have any nationally relevant races that you're keeping an eye on?
Definitely. So when it comes to the Senate, I have been keeping an eye on the election in Florida. I think that'll be really interesting to see how Representative Demings as well as Senator Rubio, how that race turns out. In addition to that, I've been paying close attention to the race in Iowa. And I know that Iowa is typically seen as more of a Republican-leaning state, at least since Chuck Grassley has been there since I want to say just a long time. I don't, sometime in the 20th century he's been there. So
Years.
I've been monitoring former Representative Finkenauer, trying to see if her campaign is starting to gain steam. But I have been monitoring that. And then lastly, the third one that I've been paying a lot of attention to is Senator Warnock in Virginia. I'm sorry, not Virginia, Georgia, and his race against. I'm going to assume Herschel Walker will probably win the nomination for the Republican Party. So those are the three Senate races that I've been paying attention to. But on the House side of things, I've been paying a lot of attention to actually a primary election. So in the state of Georgia, after they redistricted, I saw that the General Assembly put Representative McBath and Representative Bordeaux against one another. And as someone who has done some work for Representative McBath in the past, I've been looking at opportunities to see how I can help her campaign.
Yeah, you mentioned the Georgia Senate race. I saw a recent poll that Herschel Walker was up, I think it's like 65 points or something crazy in that primary. So there's not a lot of suitable challengers for that seat. I think it's mainly because Purdue shifted to the governor's race in the state, which has kind of cooled the interest or brought less, I guess, qualified candidates in that space. What was I gonna say? Oh yeah. So what do you guys actually do? You guys work with the candidates, or what do you guys actually look forward to in these races? Like, how do you play a part in those races?
Are you referring to Encode Justice?
Oh
Or are
yeah,
you
yeah,
just referring to in general?
in co-justice. Yeah, sorry.
Okay, so in Code Justice, we essentially look at races and we pretty much see are these candidates that are going to support restrictions on facial recognition technology and a lot of these other forms of technology that infringe on people's civil liberties and civil rights, and we see whether we want to get involved in those races. So after these candidates are elected, we typically try to mend relationships with their offices. So we have relationships with offices like Speaker Pelosi. We have relationships with Senator Menendez in New Jersey. So we essentially try to create connections. And I know that since I also serve as the Alabama state lead for Encode Justice, I've had meetings with the officers with the office of Senator Shelby as well as the office of Senator Tuberville. So we essentially try to mend connections and see how we can work with them to support federal legislation on facial recognition technology.
Um, Alabama, Shelby, Tuberville, you said. Shelby's out of office though here, so just a little quickly here into the Alabama Senate race because that is a big focus in the state so far. Every single night I see TV ads, the same ones too, they haven't came up with anything new. But how have you, as Encode Justice, identified like a personal favorite in this race? Because between the big three candidates, or are you guys just kind of treading water right now?
Well, Encode Justice as an organization tries to stay out of state races, but I can talk about me as an individual and my opinion on the races. Um, I have not found a candidate that I'm particularly appealed by, and you can probably notice that just by the nature of the work that I do. There is no, I would say, viable Democratic candidate in this race, so I have been
Yeah.
taking a little bit of a back seat. But I am optimistic to see how Katie Britt's campaign works out. I am optimistic about that because the other two candidates in the race, I know Representative Mo Brooks is my congressman, and I know that I will not be supporting him, as well as Mike Durant won't be
Yeah.
supporting him as well. So
Yeah, Mike Durant's been he's been the most newsworthy
controversial.
recently with the I won't debate stance. So that's very interesting on that end. So you guys don't really do you guys get involved like endorsing or really actively do you actively go on the ground and work for them, or do you just kind of
No, we try not to, but I know that in a number of other organizations, like I'm in a group called the Fourth Branch, we do some of that work there. Yes.
That's good. That's cool. Yeah, so that's Encode Justice. Really, that's pretty interesting. I hadn't heard of anything like that. Maybe I'm just out of it, but that's like a pretty interesting, very niche organization that you have going there. So good for you there. And the Gifford Center, we can go to that a little bit because that's a more. I saw you on Instagram. You posted you were like selected as a fellow, and I was like, oh, I actually know that. That's like a way much more mainstream organization.
Mhm.
So can you just go into that a little bit and what that's been like for you these last couple weeks?
Definitely. So I went to Washington, D.C. last weekend as a part of the Giffords Fellowship Program. So the Courage Fellowship Program was probably enacted by the organization about 4 years ago. So they choose about 15 people from across the country, and these students go to Washington, D.C. to learn skills in gun violence prevention. We learn about how Giffords is involved in races across the country. So unlike in Code Justice, Giffords is heavily involved in endorsements and spending because Giffords is technically qualified as a political action
Yeah.
committee, so it's a PAC. So we talked about that. and we talked about CVI. So CVI is essentially like community violence intervention programs, otherwise known as investing in the communities to ensure that crime doesn't take place. So that's a lot what we've been doing, as well as connecting with other fellows across the country to try to essentially implement our own plans in our community to prevent gun violence and promote gun safety policies.
So the Giffords, that was a because I think that's the law. It's a merge between the Giffords Foundation and another law center, right? So it's like a merged, yeah, because Gabby Giffords was shot in 2012, I believe.
It was January 2011. Oh, I'm
2011.
sorry.
Okay,
Yeah, 2011. Yeah.
2011. Okay, so but this organization existed before, I believe. So it's emerging, obviously.
Mhm.
So that makes sense for the PAC status, because is it a nonprofit outside? Like, how does the actual organization work?
I'm not sure.
Do you know? Yeah, it was.
I would think that Giffords is a nonprofit, but I do know that Giffords has two sections of their organization. One of them is more of a research center, and that's based in San Francisco, while the other one is more of a advocacy center, and that's based in Washington D.C.
Yeah, that makes sense. And did you when you went up to DC last week? Are you guys meeting with people in Congress or like anybody on in those committees or anything like that, or what do you guys?
So during the I'm sorry, not May, April fly-in to Washington D.C., we were essentially meeting with Gifford staff, so the people who are in charge of political action, state level lobbying, federal lobbying. But when we go back in June, we will be lobbying lawmakers on Capitol Hill. So that is when we'll meet Gabrielle Giffords and we'll work more on the lobbying side of things.
Hmm. And how long is the fellowship? Is it a year, or do you guys kind of rotate, or what is?
Well, each year they bring in a new class of fellows, but you're technically like a fellow for lifetime because you still have those resources and tools as well as connections.
Oh, okay. So how old is this this program? Because it's
The
yeah.
program was founded 4 years ago, so I would say 2018.
So when you guys go up there, you guys are meeting with the older, like the old classes of fellows as well, or is it just like this new class going in? How does yeah.
We are going to meet with we're class 4, so we'll be meeting with class 3 when we go back in June.
Interesting, yeah. And then finally, the last of the prongs, the teen view. So I know the teen view. I'm sure some of the people that listen know about it too. But can you just go into what caused you to start this, and how it's like how that's also been for the last, I believe, 2 or 3 years now?
Yes. So I remember it was the main founders were myself and two of my close friends. One of them is Kushi Patel and Shreya Sunil. And during it was May of 2020, and this was a time where the country was going through a number of crises. The COVID-19 pandemic had just started. We saw racial unrest after the murder of George Floyd. We saw a lot of conflicts as well as events going on across the country. So we decided that we wanted to provide an outlet for teenagers and young people in the state of Alabama to talk about the issues that mattered a lot to them. So we founded the Teen View, and we had a number of writers who came from a variety of political spectrums to talk about the issues that matter to them, whether that's political, societal, economic, pretty much anything. And due to our efforts, we were part of an article, moms.com, top 16 teenagers to reinstill faith in the country, as well as honored by Rocket City Now, or otherwise known as WHNT News 19, as well as All Things Madison. So we essentially try to create a platform where all writers or someone who just wants to share their political viewpoint on an issue has the resources to do so.
And I would like to say to all those organizations that we did not get an email about that, so I am personally offended to you, but the Teen View deserves it as well. So fair play to
Thank
you guys got half of it correct, but you left this off. So, but yeah, so you guys function more as like an opinionated organization a little bit, because I've read some of your work and it's a little bit more on the opinion side. So what are y'all trying to are you going to start striking a balance between more fact-based reporting and like opinion, or what are you trying to shift the direction to?
So the Team View is more of an op-ed website, so that's opinion editorials. So we aren't in the news of forcing people to go to a non-biased perspective, because I feel like we need to be able to have our writers write about their genuine and truthful opinions on certain issues. So like some issues we will have, I know this is one, for example, we did 2 articles that were on whether recreational marijuana should be legalized. So we had one person who was pro and one person who was con. So when we have those 2 articles against one another, you can decide for yourself which viewpoint you fall on, or if you have a mixture of the two. But we are more in the business of op-eds versus, non-biased
Yeah.
reporting.
Yeah, that's a good you always need everything the problem with like CNN and Fox is that it's all commentary. There's no
Mhm.
even if it is opinion, there's no basis in fact or any like actual substantial work. So you guys have struck up good balance between them. So I mean, like I don't know, it's you need both. You need a balance of both fact and opinion. I think
Definitely.
it's a good mix there. So that's the journal. You hit the journal. You have the journalism. You have the organizational with the encode and Giffords. You're hitting a lot of this. You're hitting all the main points you need to be successful in the future. So do you have any like master plan here that you can reveal to us in the future about your goals in like the political realm?
Definitely. So, what I want to do after high school, I want to go to college and study something in the realm of like economics, public policy, and law. I think that's really interesting, as well as trying to see what the international lens to that is. And then postgraduate plans, definitely looking at potentially joining the United States Foreign Service or going to law school, because I think that those are both avenues that would help me in my career path. And then eventually, I want to either run for Congress or serve in some type of diplomatic position. So just representing the interests of the United States on the worldwide stage.
It's a noble goal. I will say the same thing. Do you speak any other languages? Are you learning anything like to prepare for that foreign service or anything like that?
Yeah, I'm really bad at learning other languages. I do know Latin, but I don't think that there's a country where you just go speak
Yeah, I don't.
Latin. Maybe like
The
the
Vatican.
Vatican,
Yeah.
but that's about it. Yeah.
Yeah, so well, but that is a good basis for for French, Spanish, Italian, Portuguese. That's so are you like fluent? I guess you can't be fluent in Latin, but just like but you can like speak, you can have a conversation in Latin, I'm assuming.
Yes, a very short one.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's actually it's an interesting avenue. I have some friends that work for us that take Latin and they know Latin, so I don't know what that they're gonna do with that, but they definitely know Latin. Let's get back to a little bit of politics here because that's what we're here for. Because everybody loves politics. So listen here.
Definitely.
Let's do some nice little midterms talk. Oh, someone texted me on the Alabama side because we're both in District 5 up here in North Alabama,
Yes.
and we have a big Senate race coming up. Not because it's going to shift the power of the Senate, because I mean Republicans gonna take it anyways, but the candidates in there: Katie Britt, Mike Durant, Representative Mo Brooks, a couple others that we're not going to talk about. But personally, how are you feeling about that? It's gotten a lot of attention, I feel like. So how do you
Definitely.
personally,
So, initially when the race started, I was optimistic about Katie Britt because I was thinking since she worked, I believe she was the chief of staff for Senator Shelby.
yeah,
So I saw her maybe in the realm of his viewpoints because I see Senator Shelby as not necessarily a moderate, but I definitely think that he has compassion when it comes to certain issues. But I did have a problem. I think my support or timid support for her candidacy started going down after President Trump withdrew his endorsement from Mo Brooks because I definitely think that she's trying to vie for his endorsement, and by doing that, she is offsetting turning off some of the voters. Even though Democrats probably won't vote in the Republican primary, I do know a number of Democratic voters who are planning to vote in the Republican primary so they can have a say in the election. And I think by turning into more of a Trumpian type candidate, she has started to lose support among those at least voters who thought that she was a good alternative. And when it comes to Representative Brooks, I've never really been a fan of his leadership style or his controversy, so he was never really a contender in my book, at least for my support or resources to help. And Mike Durant, I think that his actions speak for himself for the most part.
yeah. Katie Britt, yeah, I see what you're saying. Katie Britt had a lot of optimism, young or new, not a
Mm-hmm.
politician, business person, young, vibrant. I've seen her speak. She was at Boys State, and
Mm-hmm.
she was like very vibrant, speak, very energetic. So it was good. A lot of fans were made that day. But then yeah, since Brooks lost the endorsement and will seemingly hasn't dropped out, but I think he will. I don't see why he wouldn't, honestly, at this point. But who knows? Since that's happened, yeah, Durant's. I've heard that Durant's not really a real big Trump fan, but he's been campaigning as such.
Yes.
Britt has not really leaned on that Shelby endorsement at all, which is very surprising to me because I mean, he's a fairly popular guy here, so
Right.
it's interesting. I don't. Who do you think? What do you think's gonna happen? Like, do you have any predictions for the actual election itself?
Well, I have been looking at some of the polls recently, and I've seen a massive growth in support for Mike Durant. So if Mike Durant does pull off the primary, then of course he's probably going to win the general election as
Yeah.
well. And I would be, I don't want to say surprised, because I think in the realm of like the last 6 years, being surprised in politics is just, you can't do that anymore. So I wouldn't be happy about it, but I wouldn't be surprised.
So do you think he'll win outright, or do you think there'll be a runoff? Or the primary is on May 24th for everybody that's listening this later. So we're recording this on May 1st, so we don't know what's going to happen yet. But what do you think's gonna? Do you think there'll be a straight victory for Durant or anybody, or do you think it'll go to a runoff?
I definitely think that it'll probably go to a runoff. I haven't been looking at the polls in the last few days, but I have seen that I believe the top two contenders right now are Katie Britt and Mike Durant. So if there is a runoff, I would like to see what the differences are in their stances, because I think that Mike Durant's a little bit more extreme. I think that he's playing a little bit more to the culture war side of things. I would like to know, if you get in the Senate, what are you actually going to introduce? I know, like some of his campaign ads, it's like the liberals want to teach us that there are 57 genders or whatever it says. I want to know, what are you actually going to do when you get into office? And Katie Britt, same there, because I think that they're really just trying to appeal to the base, but I want to see what they want to do for the entire electorate.
Yeah, Mike Durant, you will never know what he's gonna do because he will not debate. So he's came out multiple times and first I think he blamed the Brit campaign for dropping out of the debate, but it
Mhm.
turned out that he dropped out. I don't know, but that's not a good look. Especially he's not even willing to talk. I saw this video clip of him on Twitter at this campaign event. This guy asked him, "Why won't you denounce the Lincoln Project, the Republican?" I don't know, supposedly Republican created group that opposed President Trump. I don't know what happened there. And he just ignored him both times coming in and out of the event. So, not the best speaker, I guess it is. But I think it would go, I think personally, I think it'll go to a runoff. I think Brooks has just enough support up here to take it to a runoff,
Okay.
just because of name recognition, not really because people like him. The reason he's been winning is because he's been fairly unopposed the last 10 years in the House.
Right.
But I think we're gonna run off. I don't know what's gonna happen. If they want to debate, we're open to all invitations. But and Austin, you can co-host as well. Look at that, like it all works out.
Okay.
But I don't know. It's kind of crazy they're declining invites to debate. Speaking of that, declining invites to debate, the Alabama House District 5 election between Dale Strong, the county chairman in Madison County, the biggest name in the race by far, I'd say. He's up against some guys. Paul Sanford, I think he was on the Huntsville City Council.
Okay.
Not, I think that's correct. Casey Wardinski, he was the Huntsville City Superintendent. John Roberts, he's the founder of the North Alabama Home Builders Academy, and he's on the podcast if you guys need more content to listen to. And Andy Blaylock, who is a school teacher, I think he's in Athens, and maybe a few others I might be forgetting. But what do you think about that too? Because Mr. Strong came out and said that he won't debate recently. It was in the same debate. It would have been like an undercard, I think, for the Senate race, but he said that he will not debate either. So do you have any thoughts on that? Because that is more pertinent to us personally,
Hmm.
as it is our district.
So, likewise with the Senate election, I'm not a Republican. I don't tend to support Republican candidates, so I'm not really enthusiastic about anyone in this race as well. I have been looking a little bit at Dale Strong and Casey Wardinski. The second candidate that you mentioned, I haven't heard his name a whole lot. I think he said Sanford.
Paul Sanford, yeah,
Paul Sanford.
I think he was a city councilman here or in Huntsville
Okay,
City. I'm
gotcha.
not too sure because I don't live in Huntsville City, so I'm not too sure. But I think that's what I heard.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I definitely think that at least if they want the voters of this district to support them, but they definitely need to participate in a debate. I think that it's kind of a disservice if you're not participating in a debate, because we don't know exactly what your plans are. And I think that since we live in a district that, at least in my opinion, has had inadequate leadership in Congress for the last couple of years, I think that it would be beneficial for us to have a congressperson who at least plans to introduce legislation that's pertinent and actually will help the citizens of the district.
Yeah, and Mo Brooks wasn't the best politician when it came to working for the district. That was mainly Senator Shelby, who propelled a lot of this growth that the Huntsville area has had. And now that he's retiring, yeah, we do need somebody. And now that Brooks can't really win the seat unless he wins a write-in campaign or something. I don't know. There's something crazy. I wouldn't even be surprised at that point if that happened. But yeah, there's definitely needs to be work to be done here, especially because the growth here is like incredible. There's so much growth happening. We need someone that can capitalize on that. I was gonna say something about the House district race, and I completely forgot. But oh yeah, you're for those who don't know, you're a junior in high school. So are you gonna be able to vote this November?
No, actually, no. I won't be able to vote until November of 2023. Yeah.
Mm. Yeah, so you'll be on the sidelines. This is my first election season, or voting election season, so that'll be fun. Um, and the primaries are in 23 days from the recording here, May 24th. So if you haven't registered to vote, everybody make sure you register to vote if you can. The deadline's May 9th. And that's all. I mean, do you have anything else to add about the Alabama races? I don't.
Not quite. I'm not going to say I've been tuned out of the Alabama races, but I haven't found a candidate that I believe would be indicative of my own interests or some of the policies that I'd like to see enacted. So I don't have much to add on that.
All right, well, let's a little bit national here. So you said you're not a Republican, so in theory that means you're a Democrat, which I think is that correct? Would
I'm
you?
sure.
Yeah, I get consider. Yeah, okay. Anyways, how have you thought of how's President Biden's first year and 3 months, 4 months been for you personally?
Well, I would say that I've been supportive of a number of the initiatives that he's supporting, like the Ghost Guns executive order. I think that that was very positive. I think that the passage of the infrastructure bill was very nice. I think the implementation of Juneteenth as a holiday was something good, as well as the American Rescue Plan in March of 2021. But I do think that it's been plagued by a lot of unfortunate circumstances, like rising inflation, the situation in Ukraine, which I think that those are both very negative. But I have approved of the reaction that President Biden has had in Ukraine. I do think that it's a hard situation to try to figure out what exactly is the right tactic, not to promote aggressiveness in Russia and provoke a reaction, but as well as support the Ukrainian people. So I definitely have I have mixed emotions when it comes to the Biden presidency, but I am looking forward. I hope that there are some issues that President Biden will start trying to address. I think that immigration is one that I really hope both sides can come to an agreement on, similar to like the Gang of Eight immigration reform in 2013, which wasn't passed, but I'd like to see some type of legislation similar to that.
That was the 23rd. That was the Will Hurd led immigration deal,
It
right?
it
I
might
think.
have been in the House. I do know that
Yeah,
John McCain was part of it in the
I
Senate.
think yeah, I think Will Hurd spearheaded. I heard him talking about that recently. Who did you, if I don't, you don't mind my asking, who did you support initially in 2020 if it wasn't Biden?
Well, considering there were 800 candidates, it did make it kind of hard to choose exactly who I was supporting. But initially, I did do like phone banking and some volunteering for the campaign of Senator Harris. I know that I did a little bit for then Mayor Buttigieg. President Biden was not my first choice, but I am happy that he won the election, and I thought that a lot of the candidates in that election would have implemented similar policies as him. So it didn't it didn't make a huge bearing on which candidate was chosen.
How did you I don't know, like after the debate where Tulsi Gabbard just frankly ended Harris's campaign, did you go from there to Buttigieg, or did you like was there like a kind of like a period where you're like, dang, now who's gonna
No,
step up, or what was
not
the?
too much, only because I've never really been a fan of Representative Gabbard. I have seen a lot of her problems with not recent, but former statements that she's made that now she's kind of walked back, as well as her relationships with Assad. I was not really a fan of that. I don't I'm not a big fan of Tulsi Gabbard, so her statements did not make a huge bearing on my decision to help Senator Harris, as well as I've seen some of the recent actions of Representative Gabbard. And I think that constantly going on Tucker Carlson and making some statements that I find, I don't want to say rude, but I just think that they're somewhat opportunistic. Like she's trying to fill the void of someone who's a Democrat, but just hates everything that's in the Democratic platform. So I've never really been a fan of Tulsi Gabbard now.
Yeah, I'm a little confused by the direction she took because I supported Andrew Yang to
Hmm.
start, and I like Tulsi Gabbard, but I don't. I'm like now. I mean, I'm still not like I don't dislike her or anything. It's just a little confusing. I don't know what
Agreed.
her aim was and the shift, but
Yeah.
what are you gonna do? I don't know if she's gonna ever run for office again. She might be. She might be building up to something independent in 2024 or maybe 2022. No, not 2022. Maybe 2024. But yeah, I don't know. So back to the a little Biden midterms a little bit. I'm assuming you think that the Republicans are gonna just walk away with this the way that just like it's really been unfortunate for President Biden. He came into COVID, had some issues with that. I mean, as that's happening, inflation's going up naturally. Then Ukraine happens. He's been very unlucky, like him or hate him. I think he's been very unlucky for
Mhm.
his first year. So how do you think that's gonna play into the midterms at large?
Well, definitely when it comes to the House, I'm going to start with the House. So, I'd like to see a little bit more about how redistricting is going to end up in New York and Florida, as well as Ohio, because I know that's really up in the air with the courts right now, as well as just them not having passed maps that have met constitutional limits. So, I will see what will happen with that. But I do believe that Republicans are likely poised to take the House, especially with such a slim majority that the Democrats have right now. I do believe that Republicans are likely to win that. The Senate, I'm a little bit more optimistic. I know that there's a 50-50 split right now, but I'm hoping that maybe if Democrats can pick up some seats in North Carolina, Pennsylvania, potentially Ohio, I know that might be a reach, but if they can offset some of those losses that they might face, we may be able to keep the majority. But either way, I do believe that, or I hope that the Biden presidency will have a turnaround. Hopefully, inflation will start to become under control and we can solve the Ukraine crisis. And President Biden can work with the other side as well as try to unite the many, many factions in the Democratic Party to agree on legislation.
How how do you like Ohio, for instance, is very fascinating because they have a Democratic senator, Sherrod Brown, who's it's Portman. Portman was retiring, right, Senator Portman.
Hmm.
So it's an open seat. Do you think that typically an open seat Ohio is like 50-50, but how do you think that and I don't want to just single out this state, but just a little fascinating because it's a Midwestern state. President Biden won last, I think he won 2020 if I remember correctly.
Won what in 2020?
Ohio.
I
I think
think
he won.
President
I
Trump
think did
got.
Trump win? I don't
Uh,
know. Okay, but anyway, yeah, even better. Like Trump won. Do you actually do you think that they have a good shot here? I'm not really too familiar with the race,
mhm.
but what do you think personally?
Definitely. So I think that Republicans in Ohio right now, the primary is very convoluted, and their candidates are attacking each other. So I have been looking at the candidacy of Tim Ryan. I'm not
Oh
the
yeah,
biggest Tim Ryan fan, but I do hope that he'll be able to coalesce blue class voters. Just trying. I'm sorry, not blue class, blue collar
color.
voters, as well as white collar voters, trying to unite. The Democratic base there. And I know that Sherrod Brown, he won as recently as 2018. So even though Ohio hasn't swung blue since President Obama in 2012, I do have optimism that Tim Ryan will be able to pull it off.
Tim Ryan ran for president. People forget that, probably for the
Yeah,
better, but that did happen. So who knows? I mean, he may have a shot at a statewide race.
well, he didn't win
Um,
that election. Let's
he
hope
did
he
not
wins
win
this
that.
one.
He did not win that election for sure.
Yes.
And he didn't really. Nothing really came out of that. People just kind of forgot. Like I just
Hmm.
forgot until you said the name. I was like, oh, Tim Ryan ran for president.
Hmm.
Do you have any personal what's your personal wish list? Let's try to I know you're a little limited on time, so we'll try to wrap this up a little bit. What are your if you had like two or three laws you could get nationally passed, what do you think? What would you want to see out of Congress and the Senate and the presidency, or actually the House, the Senate, presidency going forward here?
Definitely. So, number one, starting off with immigration reform. I feel like this is an issue that both sides have held steadfast to their beliefs for far too long, and I think that there are three things that need to happen within immigration reform. I think that we need to find a pathway to citizenship for undocumented immigrants. I believe that there are 11 million um, per recent estimates in the United States, and I feel like we need to give them the opportunity to live their lives freely as well as contribute economically to the United States. I think that we need to improve border security. I think that using advanced technology would be a good way to do that. And then lastly, we need to work on the legal immigration process because it is far outdated, and USCIS is an agency that is underfunded and takes way too long to process applications. So I think that that's something that we need to do when it comes to immigration reform. Second of all, I would really like to see the Equality Act passed in Congress, which would essentially add sexual orientation to a list of other protected characteristics under the Civil Rights Act of 1964, because I believe that it's far too long. It's been far too long where we haven't enacted these protections when they're desperately needed. So those are pretty much my two main pieces of legislation. But I'd also like to see some action taken on climate change. So I do want to see more funding towards renewable energy efforts. I know that a lot of those were comprised of the Build Back Better plan, which was failed. I mean, it failed in Congress. But I'd like to see both sides come together and try to find a compromise on global warming.
Three very impressive, or not impressive, important points that I think everybody going into 2022 might personally look into and think, yeah, I should keep this in mind while voting. But I don't want to speak for the voters. Speaking of voting, one more time, make sure you register to vote. The deadline in Alabama is May 9th because the primaries are May 24th. So make sure you guys turn out. If people want to complain, you should vote. All right, that's all I'm gonna say. So make sure you do that. Do you have anything to add, Austin? Where can people find you? Where can people find your work?
Sure. So on Instagram, I'm Austen Wyche. I'm pretty much every platform is just Austen Wyche. It's Austen, not the I. Then Wyche is Wyche. So, or you can just look me up, find my LinkedIn, Austen Wyche. I have all my contact information on there.
And we'll put all of Austin's information in our description. Personally, for PB Political, we have our Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. Now we have a TikTok at PB Political. So make sure you check that out. Make us viral on TikTok. I don't have TikTok, so I don't know how it works, but our social media guys doing it. So make sure you guys go follow the TikTok articles, forecast, midterms coverage, pbpolitical.com. Make sure you share that all with your friends. Follow us. Make sure you just spread the local journalism's reach far and wide. So I'm Ishan Pokrell. Thank you for tuning in, and goodbye, guys.